tú dime y yo comienzo. Muy bien, buenas tardes, bienvenidos a este nuevo aperitivo de Grupo Lab. Es uno muy especial por varios motivos, y el primero es que es en el marco de la Conferencia de Trabajo Social con Grupos y del Simposio Internacional de Trabajo Social con Grupos que está sucediendo aquí. Somos la sede este año en la Facultad de Trabajo Social de la... Es uno muy especial por varios motivos, y el primero es que es como Grupo Lab hemos estado de la Conferencia de Trabajo Social con Grupos en la organización y del Simposio Internacional de Trabajo Social con Grupos que está sucediendo aquí especial. Y lo segundo, este año en la Facultad de Trabajo Social de la... Es uno muy especial por varios motivos, y el primero es que es como Grupo Lab hemos estado de la Conferencia de Trabajo Social con Grupos en la Ática y del Simposio Internacional de Trabajo Social con Grupos que está sucediendo aquí especial. Y lo segundo, este año en la Facultad de Trabajo Social de la... Es uno muy especial por varios motivos, y el primero es que es como Grupo Lab hemos estado de la Conferencia de Trabajo Social con Grupos en la Ática y del Simposio Internacional de Trabajo Social con Grupos que está sucediendo aquí especial. Y lo segundo, este año en la Facultad de Trabajo Social de la... Es uno muy especial por varios motivos, y el primero es que es como Grupo Lab hemos estado de la Conferencia de Trabajo Social con Grupos en la Ática y del Simposio Internacional de Trabajo Social con Grupos que está sucediendo aquí especial. Y lo segundo, este año en la Facultad de Trabajo Social de la... Es uno muy especial por varios motivos, y el primero es que es como Grupo Lab hemos estado de la Conferencia de Trabajo Social con Grupos en la Ática y del Simposio Internacional de Trabajo Social con Grupos que está sucediendo aquí especial. Y lo segundo, este año en la Facultad de Trabajo Social de la... Es uno muy especial por varios motivos, y el primero es que es como Grupo Lab hemos estado de la Conferencia de Trabajo Social con Grupos en la Ática y del Simposio Internacional de Trabajo Social con Grupos que está sucediendo aquí especial. Y lo segundo, este año en la Facultad de Trabajo Social de la... Es uno muy especial por varios motivos, y el primero es que es como Grupo Lab hemos estado de la Conferencia de Trabajo Social con Grupos en la Ática y del Simposio Internacional de Trabajo Social con Grupos que está sucediendo aquí especial. Y lo segundo, este año en la Facultad de Trabajo Social de la... Es uno muy especial por varios motivos, y el primero es que como Grupo Lab hemos estado de la Conferencia de Trabajo Social con Grupos en la Ática y del Simposio Internacional de Trabajo Social con Grupos que está sucediendo aquí especial. Y lo segundo, este año en la Facultad de Trabajo Social de la... Es uno muy especial por varios motivos, y el primero es que como Grupo Lab hemos estado de la Conferencia de Trabajo Social con Grupos en la Ática y del Simposio Internacional de Trabajo Social con Grupos que está sucediendo aquí especial. Y lo segundo, este año en la Facultad de Trabajo Social de la... Es uno muy especial por varios motivos, y el primero es que como Grupo Lab hemos estado de la Conferencia de Trabajo Social con Grupos en la Ática y del Simposio Internacional de Trabajo Social con Grupos que está sucediendo aquí especial. Y lo segundo, este año en la Facultad de Trabajo Social de la... Es uno muy especial por varios motivos, y el primero es que como Grupo Lab hemos estado de la Conferencia de Trabajo Social con Grupos en la Ática y del Simposio Internacional de Trabajo Social con Grupos que está sucediendo aquí especial. Y lo segundo, este año en la Facultad de Trabajo Social de la... Es uno muy especial por varios motivos, y el primero es que como Grupo Lab hemos estado de la Conferencia de Trabajo Social con Grupos en la Ática y del Simposio Internacional de Trabajo Social con Grupos que está sucediendo aquí especial. Y lo segundo, este año en la Facultad de Trabajo Social de la... Es uno muy especial por varios motivos, y el primero es que como Grupo Lab hemos estado de la Conferencia de Trabajo Social con Grupos en la Ática y del Simposio de Trabajo Social con Grupos.
Here. So I thought that it's interesting to discuss about crises because for the last at least 15 years or more, we have repeated crises. We can call it a continuity of crises. For example, it was the financial crisis in 2008 and onwards, then the refugee crisis, the so-called as refugee crisis, then there was the healthcare system crisis because of COVID-19, and of course is the so-called as climate crisis, energy crisis, housing crisis, etc., etc. So I think this issue is very important for social work because in mainstream approaches, we have been taught about crisis in social work and how we work with people in crisis. But first of all, I think it's important to discuss this and discuss how theory matters in the way that we define crisis. For example, these crises are presented in public discourse as just an episodes or snapshots, but what we argue from a radical social work perspective is that it's a continuity of crisis in capitalism. So it's important to discuss these things as a continuity. For example, the financial crisis was used as a perfect alibi to promote neoliberalism and have cuts in social services, in social welfare, privatization, managerialism, privatization of public goods. So it was the perfect alibi that gave profit to the upper class and more poverty to other classes. And then the refugee crisis, for example, it wasn't a crisis. I mean, we had huge amounts of people traveling, refugees, all the previous years as well, after the military intervention by United States and Europe in Iraq and Afghanistan in 2002 and onwards. But suddenly we discuss about the refugee crisis in 2015 in Europe. But this is not a sudden, it's not an episode, it's a continuity because of specific politics, because of poverty, and of course because of the military interventions by United States, especially, and Europe and other countries as well. And of course is the climate change, but they call it crisis, but it's of course it's not a crisis because also of the capitalism. For refugee crisis, for example, we have all these people and still have that try to travel in Europe and across the world, and the response of Europe is to kill people and to have this fortress Europe. And in all these situations, social workers are called to work with the people, but what we really do and how we recognize this crisis, how we define this crisis. So the perspective by a radical and critical social work define this crisis as part of the system, as part of capitalism that uses this crisis, either the result of the politics in capitalism or creates this crisis in order to have more profit on the other hand, and on the other, on the one hand, and on the other hand, have all these consequences to people. And that is the first issue that we'd like to discuss. I mean, how we define crisis and what is the response of social work in crisis. So you.
Because the definitions, in a way, will model the answers and the kind and the nature of the answers. I mean, by social policy and, of course, frontline intervention, because we work there as professionals.
Yes.
So, do you think that in our universities we have enough training in critical and radical social work to do that, to do this kind of analysis and problematization?
Yeah, okay. Of course not. I mean, we know how is the mainstream social work approaches. I cannot talk about all over the world. I mean, I do know that, for example, in Latin America, there are a lot of more progressive approaches than we don't have enough, no. And the mainstream approach about crisis in social work is that we intervene just like a snapshot. I mean, it's just an episode. We provide fast track services and then we go out. So it's not linked with community work, it's not linked with the structural causes of the crisis. No, we don't have enough, okay? But what we have enough, not enough, but always it's a huge lesson for us. It's the work that movements do, the social movements. that do during the crisis. For example, in financial crisis in Greece, we had this huge solidarity movement, and also we have a very strong anti-racist and anti-fascist movement that work with the refugees on several levels. Solidarity, providing solidarity through food, goods, and support to people, or some squads for refugees, and at the same time fight and struggle for social justice and change these hostile policies and anti-immigration policies. So what social movements do in day-to-day work, and this is not only for refugees or financial crisis, is the Me Too, is the Me Too movement, is the Black Lives Matter movement. I mean, all over the world, we have feminist movement, we have wonderful movements. And my argument is that we have been taught and inspired of the movements, but also we are linked, and it's our allies in our day-to-day work. I am I'm also activist in anti-racist movement, in solidarity movement, etc. for years, and I have learned a lot by the movements. And I also have, I think I have brought also many ideas as me, as my colleagues, as social workers to the movements in frontline work, either in movements or in official social work. And I think this is a very crucial issue. I mean, this coalition with the user movements, disability movement, for example, or social movements that struggle for social justice. And I think this is crucial for radical and critical social work, and it's a unique. And we have learned a lot, and also the work with that movements do with people in the streets is also a kind of alternative social services. And it's a great thing to cooperate and do things. And I think that we can achieve a lot by this coalition.
Yes, but my question or my concern is how to make real that kind of coalitions, because or alliances. I mean, yes, you may have the way to do that, or the expectation to do that, or I don't know. But institutionally, we work at universities. Okay. How do we promote from universities the links with social movements, and not as an alternative, a personal alternative that you made after you graduate?
No way.
But,
it doesn't work like this.
But during your training as a social worker, establishing that kind of links, more permanently or more formally or more, I don't know, more established, and not depending on if you want or don't want to establish relations with social movements.
This is a very interesting question, and it's something that all of us need to discuss, and we make a lot of this discussion with our students, our undergraduate and postgraduate students. Okay, there are different levels on this. I mean, I'm an academic, but also I'm an activist. I'm also part of a movement, for example, for defending the public universities, okay? So it's not something that we teach people or say people what to do. We also do that as part of our lives.
We perform that.
We do that. So everybody can do that, we struggle for public universities. I'm going to discuss about this in my presentation in the conference. This example of struggling about public university. So what that means? That means to go to demonstration, that means to publish articles or to discuss to media about the defense of public universities. That means to have alliance with other workers, but also with students. But that also means that we create, for example, modules or programs that are for free. For example, we have now, I'm very proud of this, that we have succeeded to have a master degree for free in coalition with another university, Panteion University. It is about social rights and advocacy. So postgraduate students do not pay fees. So what we do, we struggle on two levels. The one is to change the policy and defend, but at the same time, we present a different paradigm, and that is a different paradigm of public education. It's not only defending public education in theory and teach and gain money. I don't be paid. I'm not paid for this. I do that for free because this is my obligation. I'm a public servant. And public education is a social right. So if I do believe in that, if I'm struggling for this, I need to exercise that on myself, okay? In order to achieve that, it wasn't easy at all. I mean, that was a vision from 2015. And we succeeded that only on 2022.
Yes.
Because social change needs vision. And we know that is a marathon. It's not something, okay? So this is something that we do in universities and is an example, but this is not enough, of course, because, okay, I do that, but what can I say to the students that are social workers? We have this kind of social work. We already have. We have it through Social Work Action Network in Greece, where frontline social workers participate in this. And also in their day-to-day job, they create groups with colleagues or with users. So this kind of coalition is not something that's happening in theory, it's something that we practice that in Greece from 2010 through Greek Swan, but also in universities and also through other projects like radical supervision and these things that are focused on not only theory but also in acting in coalition. So I have many examples to say because we are for the last 15 years. I cannot say anything. Don't worry. Don't worry. We have also publications of this and that things online that you can find if you are interested. But what I want to say by this, it's not like you know what they say about radical social work. Okay, you radical social workers, you say great things, but we cannot exercise this. This is not true. We have Liberation Health Model, which is about, by Don Berky Martinez, because it's about clinical radical social work. We have wonderful anti-racist social work. We have work in the community. We have new models and paradigms that we know that they work. Of course, it's a period that we have a race of fascism and far-right and neoliberal is very strong, neoliberalism, but it's not gonna stay forever. I mean, it's ups and downs. And I think that we're very proud that now we have some examples. We don't succeed in everything, of course, but at least we are there and we try.
And at universities with academic people,
okay,
we know, you know what I mean, that we are very conservative people, academic people.
I'm accidentally professor, I think. By accident.
Or not. But, okay, regarding students and teaching programs, okay. But in the dialogue with our colleagues, academic colleagues at university, it's very difficult to talk about this, to plan alternative models, because per se, universities are conservative institutions. So there is another challenge, an additional challenge with our colleagues in our departments. And what is your experience with that in Greece?
Okay. Everybody see that, so I have to be careful. Okay, I firstly was teaching in Patras. It wasn't a permanent post. My permanent post was only in 2017 in Athens. And the experience wasn't good because the department was closed in 2013 because of the austerity. You know, these years of austerity, so it was closed down and I have to move in other. So radical social work, the first years that I was trying to discuss about critical and radical social work, in 2006, it's about 20 years before, it's a long time, students were shocked, and also the head of the departments were shocked, and they say, who are you, and what are you talking about? And it's not an easy task. Now things are much better. I mean, we have modules for radical and critical. So these things we know it's not easy because the context is neoliberal and conservative. But it's the same as in frontline social workers. I mean, it's the same situation. We have these challenges because it's conservative, but also frontline social workers work in social services that are conservative, limited welfare provision, underpaid, and a lot of work. So we face the same challenges. What we are trying to do is to have some allies inside the departments, in the university, or if that it's not possible, the allies are outside. I mean, we have some very progressive universities in Greece and you, and people around the world. And we have also some allies by the movement. It's the same story. I think it's the same for all of us. It's the same for the users, it's the same for frontline social work, it's the same for academics. For academics, it's very easy, you know, to be focused on careers and be famous and have only the career, etc. I call it alienation. It's something that's happening very, very slowly. You are famous, you gain more money, and you have more masters with money, etc. Sorry, colleagues, I have to say that. You know my opinion. So there are different, you know, ways, and I think it's a kind also of life you want to live and why you are in this profession. Why we really do that. And at least for me, because I studied social work when I was 28 years old, it was my first degree on 32. So previously I was working and didn't have a lot of things. And my vision was to be there, like the universities, be with you know, people, students, but also give something back to the society. So I think there are always ways to do that. And if we don't have allies inside our departments, it's okay, we can look around outside of our departments, or if it's not in our country, in other countries. I mean, for me, Social Work Action Network, it was a source of inspiration and also a source to meet people like Mel, okay, and Dawn, and you people, and you know, find allies to promote more progressive social work. Did I respond or
Yes,
do I
yes,
say
no,
much?
it's not a matter of respond,
Okay.
but
I mean,
talking.
do I talk too much?
We are here to listen to you, so don't worry. Animo a mis colegas a que te pregunten lo que quieran.
Voy a hacer en español, que es mejor.
Bueno.
Yo siempre me quedo preguntando, ¿por qué, por ejemplo, la diferencia que hay entre trabajo social en Europa y trabajo social en Latinoamérica? Porque ahí, no sé, tenemos una formación un poco más progresista en términos de saber de las crisis, que son las crisis continuas en proceso en modelo capitalista, ¿no? Y me pregunto por qué tenemos esta diferencia entre Latinoamérica y Europa en términos de trabajo social. A veces pienso, porque en Latinoamérica no tuvimos, por el tema del capitalismo, un estado de bienestar concluso, digamos así. Siempre estamos luchando para tener el tema del estado de bienestar. Entonces, para nosotros es una lucha continua, desde siempre, desde el colonialismo. No sé si es por eso o qué ¿Qué te parece? Porque tenemos ahí en Latinoamérica un poco más progresista y que es un poco distinto de Europa.
A little bit. Just a little bit.
Now, we have talked about this many times. She's talking about the differences between social work traditions in Spain, in Europe, and Latin America. Why do you think we have these different traditions? Because her hypothesis is that because of colonialism and dictatorships, and that in a way stimulated the dissemination of critical and radical ideas or revolutionary ideas in the 70s, for instance. That's her hypothesis, but what do you think about these differences?
Yeah, I have another question. Do you think that social work in Latin America is more critical, radical than Europe?
Yes.
Yes, me too. I agree, yes. And it's so, I mean, it's so strange because we are very similar in culture, okay? And we had also dictatorship. Huh? But we don't know a lot about social work in dictatorship. I have an explanation, but of course there are many explanations why it's happening that. I think first of all it's because in Greece, social work was actually imported from up down. It was an up-down procedure and it was imported by United States modules and UK modules. So it was more mainstream, it was an up-down. Although community social work is more near to our culture, this doesn't work a lot as official social work. And it's very strange. So we followed the Western paradigm and the mainstream approaches. And it was and still is more focused in individualistic approaches and a lot of psychology and psychiatry and all these things, and not so much political sciences, sociology, etc. So I think to a great extent it's because of education, but also because of politics, because also after we have this, how we call it, Cleriton and Filio, the civil war across Europe. There was a great concern not to have communist countries, so we have some politicians from abroad, like United States and Marshall Plan, that were in Greece and imported in social policy sector only mainstream approaches, and it was based on social work education that was also only for middle class women and white middle class and those and fees, so only upper class and middle class could study social work. So that's why it's a combination of politics and education and the general politics in not only in Greece but across Europe, where they were very worried social workers not to be near the communist paradigm, but on the right, okay? So they promoted the Western paradigm and mainstream approaches. And that was the case for many, many decades in Greece. But gradually this changed. And now we have also, I think in all of our universities we have now critical. I think it's because of politics actually. I mean, that is the response.
Yeah.
It's okay. It was clear?
Yes, yes.
Bueno, mientras piensan otra pregunta, mis compañeros, while they are thinking about that question,
I'll be happy to
because of the I don't know, the success of fascisms and new fascisms and new rights and that kind of movements, while the European elections last week. So normally I'm not a very optimistic person, but now I'm not at all. So, related to these things that we are talking about, social justice, rights, advocacy, anti-racist, anti-oppressive, etc. What can we say to be just a little bit optimistic about the future in this political, cultural, and economic, of course, and ideological context we are facing?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a very difficult period, and I think it's going to be a dark period, another dark period, because also the previous years was a dark period. For Greece, we had Golden Dawn. You might heard about this. That was a fascist party that was in parliament, and they killed people. And it was a huge anti-fascist movement the previous years. And we had a victory in 2019, I think, that was an illegal party, and many of the fascists were in prison. But now again, some of them are out, and fascism again goes up. I think it's going to be a very challenging and difficult period, and we have also a defense of left parties. After the Syriza project in Greece, you might have heard about this, and all the hope that we had that it's going to be a very left period. That wasn't the case. Okay, I don't know if I'm optimist or pessimist. Okay, I'm trying to see history as a continuity, and we have these ups and downs. I need that we have to be more brave and speak the truth and discuss about fascism very clear in the universities and society, in social services. And for us, it's a crucial need to have posters, to have whatever, and say, we cannot be social workers and be silent. We cannot be social workers and not anti-fascist or anti-racist. So I think we need to focus more on these things. And for me, social work is not something that, and for radical social work, critical, we just do the job 9 to 5. I mean, what I say to students, we cannot just do the job 9 to 5 and after 5 be fascist or be a racist, okay? Or not being feminist, and after that, it's part of what are the values of social work, and for me, it's more than ever the need to have this coalition, as I said before, with the anti-fascist and anti-racist movements. And if we don't have this kind of movement, we can create groups, we can create initiatives. I mean, even a small initiative in a university, for example, without names of the people that say we are anti-fascist, is very important. It's very, even something. And by these small initiatives or small groups that are focused in action, then we can, this is the way to create gradually the movement. What is the social movement? The social movement is actually the relationship between the organization and the groups. So we need to be more brave and discuss. I think that's going to be, but it's going to be a difficult period.
Yes.
And it's already a difficult period.
Yes.
Back in my town in Patras, we have some racist violence incidents against trans people, for example. And I talk to him very often what we have to do because he's alone. No? And if we had, for example, there an LGBTQ group, that would be great. But now he's alone there without a group. So I will talk with social service department. It's crucial to create these things. I mean, it's a way to support people now that they are the victims of racist attacks and fascist attacks. And these are such small things that we can do in social services or in our departments. No? It's going to be a difficult period, and we need
Coalitions, yes, and political discussions, because another topic that I want to introduce, that I know you are interested in, is the relation with political dimension in social work, because mainstream, as you mentioned, it's not so
It's neutral.
sure. Yes,
But it's not neutral.
And technical and only objective and politics is another dimension that autonomized from our work or our teaching programs instead. So what is the possibility from critical and radical social work to introduce this kind of discussions regarding politics as an intrinsic part of our professional intervention.
I have noticed actually that after 2010, 15, radical social work is like a trend. It's like a fashion. I mean, there are many people that say, okay, we are radical social workers, okay, and they go to the conference and say, okay, I'm a critical and radical social worker, etc., etc. But we have to see not only what people say, but what they really do in day to day. So, okay, there is no neutral science in general, and I think this is not only about social work, it's about every science. And if we pretend that we are neutral, that means that we take the side of the oppressor. And everything is politics. I mean, we discuss this very often with the students. They say, okay, but you know, we have to be neutral. I say, okay, let's be neutral. How much did you pay for your rent? They say a lot of money. Okay, this is politics. It's because of the social policy. What are the problems that the users face in social services? It's poverty or it's violation of their rights. It's because of politics. I mean, politics, it's part of our life as citizens. So I think this is all fake of neutrality, it's all fake, and it was established in order not to take the side of the oppressive and be more political. And it's a lie, actually. So it's not a matter that if you see politics in your work that you are radical
in your day-to-day life, in every dimension of your life.
I mean, Clary is here with us. She's a frontline social worker in child protection, and she's not a radical social worker. But I think, Clary, if you want to say something about how politics, because it's a discussion that we do about child protection and social policy in Greece and politics.
You're invited to talk.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can see it.
Okay. So, well, it's not that easy, you know, to work in frontline, especially after all these crises in my country, and because people suffer a lot and come to social services, and there were periods of time, especially during the economic crisis, that social workers were not paid for doing the job, and they had to provide work for people, and this was a very, very hard period, and still is, because all these crises bring people to social services. For example, at this time of year, many children are in hospitals, have been taken away from families that cannot take care of them. So they're about to get in, houses for children, and we are very little people working there. I mean, I am the only social worker working with 39 children
in an institution.
In an institution, yes, and it's yes, and the salary, my salary is very small as well, and
how much is it? 800
now it's about 980 euros. Yes, all this.
Yeah, I think this is a perfect example for politics.
Yes, and I am a public
servant as well.
Okay.
Yes, because I mean, precarity is like a mark of our times, our present. It's like as you as you mentioned, it's like something that it is transversal to the structures.
Yeah.
Our salaries, our conditions, the users' conditions, the institutions, the quality of institutions. No, I think that precarity is key to do that. I don't know if my colleagues want to ask something, because yes.
Thanks for your for share your
Thoughts.
Do you think that social workers who are in direct contact with people and groups living in critical situations like such as migration processes are ahead of academics in terms of intervention from a critical view of social work or not?
I think some of them, yes, they are. Some of them. We also done a research about frontline social workers during refugee crisis in Greece, and we also found some very interesting things. And that in some of them it was that many of the social workers were linked with movements, with anti-racist movement, or they were trying to do different kind of social work in camps. So some of them, yes, I think they do. I mean, it's the same like in academia. It's not a different thing actually. Okay, the working conditions are better in academia than frontline. We have to be honest. Okay. But there are many radical social workers that they don't know that they are radical. They don't know that because radical social work haven't been taught in education departments in the past. So they are much more radical than us, but they don't define themselves as well. So yes, I think in some cases, but not in all of them. I mean, there is also a big part that it's they work oppressive in an oppressive way with not only refugees but also other. This is, I mean, it's not that we are angels, the good, you know. This is not the case. You can find very good social work, and you can find also oppressive social work that reproduce oppression with people. I think, and I think it's the case for you as isn't it the case for
Okay, because we are running out of time.
Okay.
But I want you to think together with us about something like an agenda of critical and radical social work. Maybe thinking
steps.
topics or tips. Like
tips. How to be a good
how
to survive.
Like an agenda. What is the needs, our needs, our challenges.
Okay, as radical social workers.
Or our proposals. Whatever, in terms of introducing critical and radical social work in our curricula, in our practices, in our relations. But in terms of agenda, because I know that it's not an mechanic thing that we have to work for this.
Yes, we have to work.
Yes.
We have to work for this, and we have to take care of ourselves as well.
Yes.
Because if we want to be not only today. I mean, as I perceive myself, I'm a person that acts politically from 18 years old. So what I think we need to do is to be able, first of all, to see the bigger picture, to understand the structural causes, and we need also to have support. I mean, it's not only to have the vision, to set goals. As I see it, is to build a strategy and objectives. At least that is what I do. For example, as an academic, I have a strategy that means to provide for free education. This is my strategy. And I need to build objectives in this. For example, refuse to participate in Master with fees in Greece, because this is a crucial issue for Greece now, okay? But how to do that, it's not an easy task. I mean, we need the strategy and the objectives. We need to have coalitions with people, and we need also to have support, and also take care of ourselves and take some time to have fun, but also have fun. I mean, I participate in collectivities. Collectivities, as Dawn says, is therapeutic. Individualistic way of life. I mean, I've done this in some cases in my life, and I wasn't happy. I'm very happy when I share things in a collectivity that we have a common goal, because all people we are made for participating in groups, to laugh, take care of ourselves also, and think that there are many people like us. I mean, we are not. I don't perceive ourselves as something different or heroes. I mean, this is all fake. No, it's the same. But we do know that if we want to succeed something at the end of the day, we need to do that with people that struggle with this. Not with people that pretend to struggle with this, but people that struggle with this. And these people, in their majority, many of them are out of academia, are in the streets. So we will find them in the streets. Okay. So our next date is on the Gay Pride, 15th of
English, Spanglish,
Spanglish.
Portuguese, Spanish, and everything. It's a mixture. If we talk about interculturality, we need to practice it. I learned that today. So, okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
We are going to having fun, I promise.
Okay.
That's
why I'm here.
Yes.
I'm not here.
Thank you very much y gracias a quienes nos acompañaron. Lo vamos a difundir el link para que se pueda ver en más lugares, a tu pesar. Y bueno, muchas gracias a los compañeros y compañeras también que nos estuvieron acompañando aquí.